Think it's time we rise up, people. It's time's up, people. You can talk all you want, but it won't change a thing. I wanna know what you do. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Up and Up with Jodi Newell. I know I say I'm excited a lot. I've noticed that, but I just want to say I am really excited today to bring on Joy, Savage Joy, which many of you probably know. But now what she's doing is organizing a national march for Medicare for All. So welcome to the show, Joy. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, okay, so let's get into a little bit of the details. First of all, how did you get involved with this March for Medicare for All? I mean, I know that you're an advocate and activist and connected and things like that, but like particularly, how did this kind of come about?
Well, the one of the two people who created the march in DC in January, Sharif, he tagged me on Twitter and said, "Joy, do you support this?" Something like that. And then I DM'd him. I'm like, "Yeah, what do you need?" And then I was just like, "Put me to work." Like, yeah. I think he just wanted me to retweet, but I was just like, "Okay, what can I do?" And then within like a day, I was MC, and then I was, "Can you get people to speak?" And then I was, "Okay, now other people, cities want to have marches. Can you help them get speakers?" And it just, it just evolved. I wasn't necessarily asked to help. I just kind of like was like, "Hey, I'm helping."
Is that not the way though? Like, I gotta say, I feel like that's kind of the activist way. Like, yes, put me to work. I love that. It resonates so much with me. Okay, tell me what I can do. I want to be a part of it. I want to participate. Tell me what to do. I love it. I love it.
Absolutely.
So that's cool. So July 24th. I mean, right now, I mean, this is coming up soon at this point. So like, where are we at? What are the things that people need to know? Yeah.
So right now, we started with one march in DC in January. Right now, we are at 38 marches across the country. This is bananas. Like this, and it exploded in the past 2 months. Like it's just social media, like word got out on Twitter. We started booking some, total badass, inspiring speakers, and it just kind of, we got a following, and people reached out and said, "Can we do one in our area?" Of course, we welcome it, absolutely. And there's a misconception that we're an organization. We're not. We're just activists and pissed off people from across the country who decided that we're sick of hashtags and counting on reps who don't fight for us, and we want to actually get feet in the street. And because there's 38 marches, we have the potential on this one day, July 24th, to have thousands of people across the country marching in the streets for this one cause. We are completely nonpartisan, and we are not partnering with any organizations. This is literally just activists. We
Mhm.
want it that way. We want it to be organic. We want it to be truly grassroots. Organizations have asked if they could partner. We said no.
Mhm.
We don't want any divisiveness. We don't want anything like that. We want it. We the people. We're the ones who are being affected the most. So it's important that people like myself as a disabled person is involved, and people with children are involved. We have healthcare people involved. These are the people who have the most experience dealing with these things, so these are the people who should be involved.
Absolutely. And what I love about it is I know you're not like partnering with other organizations, but there are a lot of organizations that are helping with in state, particularly in that city or in that state who are activists in other ways, right? But this is an issue that kind of brings people together, right? Brings a lot of other broad-based organizations. I know we were just talking about Rights and Democracy New Hampshire is doing this. I think Rights and Democracy Vermont as well, so that we'll have a state one, and it's that organization that's kind of putting it, kind of organizing it in that state because they're an umbrella organization that cares about a lot of progressive issues, and Medicare for all is essentially like a baseline. So can you tell us a little bit about kind of, what kind of different organizations are getting involved? And I don't know if you want to do that because it's not necessarily to tie yourself to some organization or partner with or something like that. But I think it's amazing how organizations that are local are getting involved and kind of taking the ball and run with it.
Yeah, I mean, we do have, if you look at our website, we do have certain states like maybe DSA Washington State, or MPP Washington State, things
Right.
like that, um, on a state level. But the beautiful thing is, since our coalition is just people, we do have people from DSA, from MPP, from Green Party, from the Liberation and Socialist Party, from myself, completely anti-party, independent. I'm sick of
Right, right.
electoral politic bullshit party. So we have people across the board. We literally in DC have a conservative speaking because he is a doctor and he is a fierce Medicare for all supporter. Dr. Joe Jarvis, he has written books on the need for Medicare for all and everything. Dude's a Republican. That's why we're making it a nonpartisan event. So really, it does go by state. But no, we made it very clear that we are welcoming of absolutely everyone. We just didn't want to. There's a lot of divisiveness. I have my
Mhm.
issues with
Right,
DSA, and a lot of people do things like that. So we feel like if we take on the members, we have no issue with the members,
right.
and statewide are great, and they do so much great work. So that kind of takes out the divisiveness of
Mhm.
not taking on uh the national groups.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. And I think, just kind of bring it back to that, right? Because, like, I think what you're saying is really important to understand, right? Is that there's like organizations that, as a body, decide that they have certain parameters or, certain things that go along with it. But the membership, like, that's what's really important. When we talk about parties, like, can we have the fuck parties party? Like, because, sorry, excuse my
Yeah.
language, but like, sick of the whole shit that everything gets you in this where you're stuck in a party and then the party makes a decision and then somehow you're supposed to like abide by that, whatever. We don't have to get into all that, but I think what is really important about it, and I'd really like to bring it back to, is like the human aspect and the fact that this is something that individuals really need, right? This is something that individuals, and we should focus on each individual human because it's each individual's health, right? We have a society for a reason so that we can provide for each individual's basic needs, right? And I know you specifically have a story, and I don't know, probably much of our viewership have heard bits and pieces of it and things like that. But I'd really like to, get into kind of the human level with you, if you don't mind. I know that you have a really heartfelt story, that really caught me, that really resonated with me, and I'd love if you could share it if you don't mind.
Sure. So, in 2019, about a year and a half ago, I woke up with almost all of my eyesight gone. I went to the hospital. Well, at first, you're like, oh my God, am I still asleep? Am I just groggy? Like, you splash some water on your face. You're like, what the hell's going on? But my husband took me to the hospital because I still couldn't see. Eventually, I got diagnosed with something called myopic degeneration, which is incredibly rare, especially for someone who is not elderly. And um, that became the, finding out that my sight was never going to come back ever. This is, I like to say it's a progressive disease because, you know, I'm progressive, so I usually make that joke. My disease is progressive, just like me. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it was a really, it's still hard to think about every day. It's like you just go to sleep and you wake up and your entire life is changed.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm still very scared to go to sleep because what if I wake up tomorrow and the rest of my sight's gone? Feasible. I don't know. Um, so then became the eye treatments that were over $12,000 for each eye, every 30 days. They were saying it wasn't medically necessary, which is completely absurd.
So just to clarify, your doctor said, "Hey, this is what you need to deal with this issue." And the insurance company said, "No, it's not medically necessary."
Right. And to be transparent, the treatments were eye injections.
Okay.
So I said to my doctor, is this some kind of kink or something? Who chooses to get eye injections unless it's medically necessary? Like, who chooses that? So that no, it didn't bring sight back, but what it did was it tried to preserve what little sight I had from leaving, essentially. So it was very important. And, I had to fight them and appeal and spend hours on the phone every day. I had to call out of work without pay to try and deal with this shit with the insurance companies. And I was getting bills for thousands and thousands of dollars, even though I had insurance. And I would spend my days trying to appeal them and reach out to my insurance company and pre-authorization and all of these departments, to try and get them paid while calling off of my job unpaid, to try and see if I could get these eye injections. And of course, you can't work the day you get them because it's excruciating. Even though they numb it, and you're just completely blurry and everything.
Right.
So I eventually did lose my job, and it I'm in Pennsylvania, and it was 100% legal. So, unfortunately, because I wasn't deemed disabled at that point, they had no obligation to give me a bigger screen, give me a bigger keyboard. And I could only fake it for so long. And then my bosses started walking by me like unexpectedly, and I was like this to the keyboard and stuff.
Right.
Um, and it went from like 52 words per minute to like 20 with mistakes. Like it was obvious something was going on.
Yeah.
So but I think one of the most frustrating things was all the times I had to call the insurance company, and you can't get a person. You have to go press 1, press 2. Well, they would say enter your insurance card. Well, I can't see the freaking numbers.
Ah.
So I'd hold real close and try to make it out, and then you hit one wrong number and they disconnect you. So I
Uh,
mean, it could literally take me 45 minutes, an hour to even enter something correctly. And then, even when I was buying, devices and things, which were prescription for my eyes for disability, even the site I gave the prescription to and everything had a capacha or whatever it is for freaking blind
oh my
equipment.
goodness.
They make me pick, each one, and then I got locked out of the account and everything. And I'm thinking, even these blind disability websites are freaking ableist. Like, it's incredible. So, you don't realize just how difficult things
Right.
are. I mean, just trying to put a pen cap on is one of the hardest things, or trying to plug something in a socket. just if I'm not home alone, I just say to my husband, can you just do this for me?
Right.
It's those little things,
Yeah.
or going to using a debit card to pay, or uh really just really everything, to
I
be
think
quite honest.
exactly, and I
You
think that's
know,
kind of the thing is that it's things that generally speaking people don't think of. You don't
yeah,
realize like what you're using your faculties for while you're doing it, right? And so like when you talk about
absolutely.
ableist, it's like the idea is for people who understand what this causes to compensate for that, to be able to give support for people who are in that situation. I just had this conversation with Cheryl Van Epps was on the other day,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, and she's talking about, she had a brain injury and she's talking about trying to read through all of these forms. And she's like, but I have a brain injury. Like that makes it difficult to do that. And you would think that, hey, in a medical setting, right, that this would be accommodated for because those are the people we may not know as we're going through everyday life. We may not register, okay, this is something that would be difficult if we did not have this or something like that. We average people may not realize that, but people in the medical profession would know that. Like those are the people who would know that. So those are the people who would accommodate for it. It makes no sense, as many things don't make sense in a healthcare industry for profit.
Well, yeah, I mean, applying for disability was one of the most, difficult things I've ever done, because, when you go through Social Security, anyone who's ever applied for disability will tell you it is pure hell. Like,
Oh,
it's violent the way that they just, I mean, my God, I have a folder literally like this thick, because I made copies of everything. They sent me packets every damn day. And I'm like, I literally can't see. So I'd have to sit there and my husband would have to read me, and then he'd help me put my finger where I needed to sign and stuff like that. I mean, it was
right.
just, it was violent. I mean, I literally submitted over 100 pages of documentation and packets and everything like that. Then they approved me finally after almost after a year and a half. It starts this month and they refuse to give me any back pay. So like literally I've had no income for a year and a half, even though I lost my sight a year and a half ago. Um my doctor was like, I've had two eye surgeries and everything. Like,
Right.
my doctor was like stalking Social Security. He's like, I am a doctor and I'm telling you, her sight is not coming back. What you're doing is inexcusable. And he would just write letters, he would call them, and he'd fax them. It didn't matter. And I'm like, literally, I can't fake this. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I literally can't see. So it was, it's not like you have a broken arm and they're like, oh, well, it might heal. Like, it's literally like, I can't see. Why are you doing this to me? Um, so yeah, I mean, that just exacerbated everything. So
Of
on
course.
top of dealing with, insurance and all the bills, and then you have, my disability equipment, which is not covered by insurance. So all of the like, I have a reader. I was an English major and I couldn't read a book or magazine for over a year, and it killed me because
Mhm.
I'm a reader.
Yeah.
So I had to set up a GoFundMe. I didn't know what else to do. So I needed those electronics for, for the blind. So I got this reader. It's like this machine, and it lets me read books. It lets me look at menus. It lets me do, and I just sobbed for hours when I got it because I was just so happy. But that one machine is prescription and it was $1,200. It's this big.
I just
And it's literally essentially a magnifier for my diagnosis. It's
Mhm.
literally like a magnifier. That's
Mhm.
all it is.
Right.
But it's specific, the coloring and stuff like that. So that's to give you an idea. And then, I have to pay for my appointments to, have the woman come out to the house, to mobility experts. She's teaching me how to use a cane, how to go up and down stairs, like all this stuff. I have to pay for all this shit.
Wait, so the insurance doesn't, you know what? I feel like I should not be surprised. Like I feel like I should not be surprised. It's like so unbelievable, yet somehow in our society it is absolutely and very sadly believable. But no, they don't pay for the person who comes to make sure that you can get around your home and
No,
function in your. What does insurance pay? Like what does insurance?
fractions of certain things. That's
It's
about it.
amazing, and on top of it, I mean, I think one thing I think that doesn't get a lot of, conversation, right? Like, that doesn't get a lot of attention, or it doesn't receive a lot of value, is just that the idea that you're constantly y- y- you're in a medical emergency, like you're in a medical situation already, and then you're constantly stressed so that you have to do all these things on top of it, and figure out the paperwork and navigate this system, you know what I mean? That really doesn't make a lot of sense. And the thing is that that's the least helpful thing for your diagnose, like for getting well, like that, being stressed and constantly trying to chase all those things down. I just want to say, props to your doctor, because it sounds
Yeah.
like he went like farther out of his way than a lot of people would normally do, you know?
He's awesome. I'm very, very fortunate to have him. Also, he knew how to deal with my anxiety when it came to eye injections and stuff. He'd let me like blast my music, and he would like just rub my back, like it's okay, deep breaths, and I'd be
Were
like,
you awake for it? Were
and
you
they'd
you
have
were
to
awake
stop
for
the
the
work.
injections in your eye?
Yeah,
Oh my god, I didn't want to think about that.
I know. Well, even the
Braver
girl at
woman than
the
I am, I'll
receptionist
tell you that.
she's like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, well, what the hell choice do I have? It's like, that's why. Do you think I'm going to do that unless it's medically necessary? That's what's so
Oh,
crazy.
I'm like, I don't mind
I
needles,
mean,
okay, but in my eyes, that's scary.
it's, oh my God. The first time they said they were going to do it, I was like, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand. And they described it, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. And they're like, yes, you are. And
Thank
it
you.
never
No,
got
thank you.
easier. It never got easier. I would take like 3 Ativan and go, and I would just be like shaking. And they'd be like, Joy, we can't do it till you calm down because you can't move. And I'm like, I'm trying to calm down. So
Imagine.
he would literally bring in med patients and be like, you're gonna, you can watch me give Joy, her treatment. And I'm like, you have them in here to watch how to handle someone with anxiety, don't you? He's
You.
like, no comment.
Mm.
I would just laugh at it. It didn't bother me.
Oh my goodness.
But
I
now
oh,
the
go ahead.
irony is, I kind of wish I still got them, because now I don't get them because my eyes are too far gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what was the point? What was like the purpose of them? It was to kind of like maintain where you were at?
Yeah, it
Mhm.
wouldn't bring any sight back, but what it did was it injects like a kind of fluid behind the eye to kind of help uh basically try to separate the scar tissue. There's
Okay.
a lot of scar tissue in there because my 2 surgeries and just all the procedures I've had done, things like that. I have detached retinas, I have glaucoma, it's all this crap. So it was basically to just try and savor what was left. But at this point, they just said it's really not, there's no point doing it anymore.
Yeah.
So that stopped about, I want to say, 2 months ago.
So I just want to think for a minute. I want to like envision what would be different if we had Medicare for all? Like, what about that situation would have been different for you? And I know that, like, it's kind of obvious in telling this story, but I really like to paint a picture. What do you think? Are you down?
Well, one of the things when I first went to the emergency room when they diagnosed me, I said, "Is am I going to need treatments for this, and how much will they cost?"
First
Not
question, right?
am yeah,
Yeah.
not am I going permanently blind. It was, am I going to need to see specialists and stuff like that? And I thought about it. I didn't even think of it when I was in there. It was just my first thought. And then finding out how much the eye treatments were, and having to call out unpaid off of work, trying to get the appeal situations, pre-authorizations taken care of. I wouldn't have had to miss work. I could have still tried to struggle through it as long as I could, because at that point I still had uh, 20% in this eye and 40% in this eye,
Mhm.
so I could still kind of fake it. I faked it as long as I could. Um, but I wouldn't have had to miss so many days if I wouldn't have had to appeal all that.
Right.
Also, having so many phone calls saying, "Why am I getting billed for this? I paid my $5,000 deductible. Why is it still over $1,000 for these treatments?" And things like that. I mean, it would have saved me so much time
Mhm.
and grief and stress. And I would have been able to take care of my mental health more, as far as accepting the fact that, I can't see,
Right.
it's like the 5 stages of grief. At first you're like, I'm an exception. I'm a strong person. It's my sight's gonna come back. Like, they don't know shit. There's always these weird anomalies, and then, it took me over 2 months to even apply for disability, because I was convinced that someone was going to change. I no point applying. Um, and you just kind of go through those stages, like, holy shit, my eyes are getting worse. I need more and more treatments. Now I need 2 surgeries, and nothing's getting better. It's actually in decline. And I maybe need to kind of start accepting it. And when I was on the Force About town hall, that was the very first time I said the word disabled. And it it really, like, I just, whoever saw that saw me absolutely just break down.
Yeah, I spoke with
Um,
Joe Nice. He said that there was not a dry eye anywhere because
I'm sorry, who said that?
this was Joe Nice, DJ.
Oh,
Right.
yeah,
But
yeah. It was, yeah, it
yeah, I
was
can
it was
imagine.
hard.
Yeah.
But as much shit as I got for going on that, I had literally hundreds of people reach out to me. "I want to share my medical story with you,
Yeah.
and thank you so much for speaking out,"
Yeah.
and things like that. And first of all, it was an honor to be picked out of all the disabled people in the world. And I'm on the same thing with Brother Cornell and stuff, and I'm just like, whoa. So, but I think, it was important to have a story like mine, because it was sudden. I think a lot of people think, well, I'm not elderly, cancer doesn't run in my family. Like, I'm fine. I got mine. And next thing you know, what about a surprise diagnosis? What about a car accident? Um, like, I'm doing all this organizing for these marches for months, and I can't even march. I'm literally going to have to wait and watch online while everyone else goes on a march. And that's because of the fact that my insurance does not cover out of state. So, being a blind person with a cane and walking on uneven sidewalk and bumpy streets in front of cars and everything. It's just, I just can't take that chance. I can't. So it's heartbreaking that I'm investing my soul into this and I can't even participate. So that, those things, that's how Medicare for All would change my life. Not just because of bills, but also having that security of, Buddha forbid something happens. I know at least it's just about healing. It's not about any other stressors.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people who think that they are covered and everything is fine, I always say, like, well, then wait till you have to use it, because that's when you realize um, how not great your insurance is, or how little it covers. I mean, I've been in that situation myself, and in many different, with everything. Um, but even more so, I think that there are a lot of things that we're conditioned not to accept, or not to expect, I should say. We want to talk about entitlements, this kind of like bad word, entitlements. Well, yes, I'm sorry if you're the citizen of a country, if you live here and you have a situation, yes, you are entitled to be taken care of that type of situation. And especially with something that it's just you never could have predicted it. I mean, that's like many, probably the vast majority of medical conditions, that you can't predict it. So many people have it in their mind that they think they're going to be all set if something happens. Not to mention that when something happens, and what I think your story illustrates so well, is that when you're going through a sudden change, a sudden health emergency, you really need to focus on you and getting better, and your mental health and your physical health and these kind of things. And instead, people are focused on how much does it cost? What am I going to be able to do? Let me get this paid. Let me start a GoFundMe. Let me do all these kind of things. And I want to say thank you to all of the people on your GoFundMe or whatever who actually made that
Oh my
happen,
God.
because
And, I owe Marianne Williamson a huge debt of gratitude. She did a fundraiser for me, and she has been, I feel like I should believe in angels now. Like, that woman, I, I can't even explain it because it's always behind the camera. But she came on my show the first time, and I just kind of nonchalantly said what was happening before we went live. And uh, next thing I know, the next day she messages me and says, "Here's my private phone number. If you ever need anything, call me." And I was like, she has 3 million followers. Like, why? Why?
yeah.
And then she would send me messages checking in on me. How are you? Do you need anything? Are you doing okay? And, you know, and when I posted the GoFundMe, she literally messaged me and says, "How much money do we need to raise?" And I was like, "What?" Like,
I
she
like
just
chills down my whole body right now, even like hearing this story. Go ahead, continue.
she
Sorry.
just kind of like adopted me. It
Yeah.
was so amazing. And so she's the first person I asked to speak, and didn't take her an hour before she got back to me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I so she's our keynote in DC, and I just couldn't be happier. She is such a kind, warm person. I mean, people like to say, "Oh, crystals." I said, no, she is just the real deal. She is so beautiful. And so I hope to one day be like her, like not as angry and just very like, they just
Yeah.
need love. Like,
Absolutely.
I need to be more like that. Because like sometimes I'll
Absolutely.
post things like, um, the one day I was like, it just makes me feel like damaged goods. And she comes on my thread and she's like, "Joy, you are not." And I was like,
Love it.
"Okay, sorry."
I saw her a couple of times in Keene and in Concord. She went and she spoke. She was the honored guest of actually Representative Ryan Buchanan, who is a friend of mine and fellow activist, who invited her because he was the I want to say it was the chair of the Concord Dems or something. So she was there on behalf. And so I just happened to catch her on the way out. It was just the first day of the session. And I was excited. I wanted to be there for the first day of the session. And I caught her on the way out and I took a picture, which I realized afterwards I am a very close picture taker. So I'm like snuggled up to her. I'm like, oh, I'm a weirdo. But anyway, super sweet. And I said I wanted to interview her, and she says, "Yeah, yeah, call up." I mean, she's just an amazing. How do I put it? She exudes. She's just very friendly and kind, and accepting, and yeah, you don't feel like you're. Anyway, I don't know. You know better than I do, but I just appreciate that about her so much.
I've done a show for 4 years. I've interviewed over 300 people. I've never had someone like reach out and like take care of me. You know what I mean? And, like,
I love
she's
that.
just, I don't even know how to explain it. And, being the MC and having to introduce her, I'm just going to sound like such a fool because I'm going to be like, this woman has enhanced my life so much. And I'm just going to like,
Hey.
I know I'm gonna be a mess. And she's very modest, so she doesn't, she's like, oh, it's okay. But I just can't help it. I've never met anyone like her.
Yeah.
She's just incredible.
I love that. I love it. I love it. Well, I want to leave you with a last word. It's about time to wrap up. So tell everybody, okay, what do we need to know? I mean, for me, I'm thinking like call to action because I want as many people as possible to come. What do you have to say? I'm gonna let you close it out, Joy.
So all the marches, we have 38 locations. They are all on July 24th. It's a Saturday. You can go to m4all.org. So it's m4all.org. Our locations are on there, and you click the location, it gives you more info. We have incredible speakers all across the country. I just booked Reverend Annie Chambers in DC, who is a Black Panther and just a total hero. We have cancer survivors. We have disabled speakers. We have doctors. We have nurses. We have people in independent media. We have literally anyone and everyone you can think of that is coming out to support this cause. This is something that needs to be done. I think it's very important for us Bernie supporters to realize that things are not over just because he's not running again. It hurts. It sucks. We'd be a million times better off if he was president, but he's not. So we need to take that reality and realize it really is not me, us. And we need to take everything we've learned about this violent system that we have and the eugenics of the poor that's going on right now and take to the streets and think about these individuals who are needlessly suffering and think about how Biden literally said, in the middle of a deadly pandemic, if Medicare for all came across my desk, I would veto it. That is violence, and we are witnessing it. So we have the option of doing hashtag resistance and things like that, or taking this opportunity to have thousands of people in the street across the country saying, you know what? We're sick of asking, we demand it. We're sick of settling for breadcrumbs. Other countries have hundreds of thousands in the streets all the time, and we just sit by complacent. Enough. We need to demand it. If we want it, demand it, period. So if you're sick of this bullshit going on, you're sick of this system, you're sick of capitalism, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, just come to one of our locations. If you want to speak, if you have a healthcare story, you can reach out to me personally on Twitter at SavageJoyMarie1. My DMs are open, and I'm always willing to talk. but yeah, I cannot stress enough how important this is. We have a huge opportunity right now, in a truly grassroots way, to come together as we the people and, be loud in those streets.
I love it. Drop the mic. Our joy has spoken. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope y'all come out. If you don't come out to DC, which I have to say I'm going, so I'm like partial, like come to DC. But there's one in your state, probably. There's one that's nearby within drivable distance, probably. Check out the website, m4m4all.org. Check it out, and we'll see you there.